Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets. The Nets win. That is a win that counts. Okay. Brooklyn strong. Hashtag Brooklyn strong. Hashtag we go hard. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn joining you for the first reaction pod. Now, we're ramping up to try and do these reaction pods right after the game, every 2 games. And Hudson was covering the whole game on Talkin Nets Twitter. You might have seen me tweeting with Talkin Nets. We obviously watched this game, and we watched the game on Friday. But, we're not going to waste any time on that game from Friday. We'll talk about it a little bit, but really we want to talk about the good times. We want to talk about the wins. So what's up, Hudson? How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good. We're coming in fresh off of a win, which was one win that I didn't know if it was going to happen after the first couple of minutes of this game. But it feels good. It feels good to be coming in on a positive note. We're playing 500 basketball, which is better than can be expected, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think what's really got me in a good mood is that the people who are saying that we have to tank to get that lottery pick are finally going to shut up, because we can't tank to get the lottery pick anymore.
All of these tankers, this tank talk. If it happens, it happens. Honestly, I think you put out a tweet and you're like, are we tanking or are we trying? I'm like, both. We're trying and we might end up tanking. I don't know if calling for that is the way to go. I'm not calling for that. If that's what happens, that's what happens. But let's get right into it, not waste any time. So Friday, the opener for us, the first game that counts in the bubble, 2:30, the Nets face the Orlando Magic on the Yes Network. Great pageantry, great opening. Obviously, the Yes Network does a great job. We always show love to the Yes Network on this pod. But, just the bubble presentation, the NBA as a whole, it looked great, and I was excited to see the Nets get out there. And honestly, that first, 15 to 20 minutes of the game was lit on Twitter. It was lit to watch on TV. It was like I won't say, obviously it doesn't matter because we end up getting smoked. But I felt like people were sleeping on the Nets, and early the Nets came out to kind of punch the Magic in the mouth and say, hey, we're going to compete. It just didn't last long. What did you think watching the beginning of the Orlando game?
Well, it was all Caris. It was Caris and Jarret Allen. And I think that gave a great look into the future of what can happen when teams aren't exactly 100% keyed in on that combination between Caris and Jarret Allen, which to me gave me some thoughts about next season. If we do bring both of those players back, if they do come and they play with KD and Kyrie, other teams are going to have to be keyed in on our big names, on KD and Kyrie. So we can have that little Caris Jarret 1-2 game that people aren't going to be paying attention to as much, like the Magic weren't, coming into this game. And we can see big scoring spurts like that. I mean, they're 2 players that are, very offensively minded, very offensively capable. And it was good to see them combine and play against, a real NBA team that was really trying to get a win, because they were a team that was only a half a game behind us in the standings. So this game really meant something. And it was really awesome to see them come out and show that even if it was only for a quarter, even if it's only for a little bit, they can really put it together and really, come out and show that they are real players, real stars, and, potential players for the future of this team.
Yeah, man. I'm loving what I'm seeing between Caris and Jarret Allen. Their dynamic is great. Obviously, it's nothing new. These guys have had that for a little while, but now we're getting to see it on the main stage. There's nobody to take away from them. They're pretty much option A1 and A2. And then now, we saw Joe Harris get active today in the Wizards game. But, when going back to the Magic game, it's just the type of thing like this. I think the Magic end up playing 13 guys. I'm not sure how many guys we actually played in the game, but we didn't play that many guys until later in the game. This game got away from us. Like I said, it was lit on Twitter. We were having a good time in the beginning. I think in the first quarter ended and we had the lead. It was 39-36. We didn't have the lead for much more of that. They came out and smacked us the rest of the way through. We won't talk too much about this game. We want this pod to be more of a positive energy celebration, especially because I really think there's not too many wins left out there for the Nets in Orlando. This Wizards game was a must win. What'd you think about, let's say before you got in the game, what'd you think about this Wizards game? The spreads were out there and we were favored, but not by much.
Well, I knew it was going to be a big game. I knew it had to be a big game for both teams because if the Nets lose this game, that cuts our lead from 6 to 5, and the number that we have to be up on the Wizards to make the playoffs is anything more than 4. If we're 4 below when it comes to a gap between that 8 and 9 seed, we have to play a play-in playoff game. And I don't like the Nets' chances in that. And I obviously would like for the Nets' streak of making the playoffs to continue. So I knew it was going to be a big game. Everything before it, everything that everyone was talking about, people said that it was going to be a big game. They came out and they said, we treat this game like 2 because it matters double.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's good to see a good competitive game. I sent out a tweet on the Talkin Nets account talking about how this might be the most competitive game we see for a little while. We record this next podcast on Wednesday after games against the Bucks and the Celtics. So maybe I would call those less competitive games, especially if we're getting smoked by the Magic.
Yeah.
So it's good to have some positive energy, some positive vibes, and to see the team come out and be up for a game that really did matter to them and to the future of everything that we're trying to do this season.
Talkin Nets, episode 44, a win today. I don't know when the next win is coming, but we're going to enjoy this for now. Like I said, this was a must-win game. Going into this game, the Brooklyn Nets were favored by 1.5, so we did cover. I did take the Nets. You got to handle the Wizards, right? The Wizards are missing their 2 stars like we're missing our 2 stars. The guys making the most money on the team, KD, Kyrie, John Wall, Bradley Beal, those guys are not here. It's essentially backups versus backups. And if it's us, currently they're supposed to be the 7th seed in the East versus the Wizards, who are the 9th seed looking in, you got to keep them there. And there were parts in this game where I wasn't so sure we were going to keep them there. But I was very pleased to see just, how these guys responded late. We could have laid down, and they didn't. So I guess we'll take it from the top. In the beginning of this game, obviously it was Caris early. Oh, actually, let's start with the starters, right? So Tyler Johnson gets to start today. And shout out to him. Not that he's doing anything great, but I noticed, immediate hustle from him. Early in the game, he was doing a lot as far as, chasing down balls, moving the ball. Still no Jamal Crawford. He's conditioning. Still no Dante Hall. Not sure if he's a conditioning issue or if he's just not ready to run with the team yet. But what do you think about Tyler Johnson getting the start today?
I think more than the good sign you see Tyler Johnson getting the start. Maybe he showed something in practice. He definitely showed in the previous games that he was a good player. I think it was definitely a needed kick in the pants for Chris Chiozza because he got ripped out of that starting lineup after having a very, very bad game. Shooting abysmally from 3. I think he was 0 for 5 on threes coming into the game, and he gets replaced in the starting lineup. And before the game, Jacques Vaughn said that they might send out 8 different starting lineups in these 8 games in the run-up to, the playoffs. And I think that keeping that in mind is important. I think that keeping that in mind for the players is important, and I think it's good for someone like Chris Chiozza to get that little kick, for coach to show him that you're not just going to go run out there and start and do whatever. We have people that can take your spot. And I think he got the message. He came out, he drilled a 3 right off the start, and we were having a lot of fun on Twitter. You're talking about how good of a game he was playing, and it was fun to watch him play because he looked like that Chris Chiozza from the Celtics game.
Cheese, please, Chris Chiozza. Talking about Twitter, I think you put out there this was the Shabazz Napier revenge game, and I'm like, no, this is the Chris Chiozza revenge game. And they are similar players, small guys. They can shoot a little bit, scrappy guys. And, they've bounced around. Obviously, they both now played for the Wizards and played for the Nets. It was good to see, like you said, maybe a little boost, a little added motivation for Chris Chiozza. In this game, he had a lot of moves that he put on. He had a lot of razzle-dazzle, just a reverse layup I saw him hit. Some shots that he hit where I was like, okay, he's playing motivated, partly because he's not starting, but maybe also, too, because they flashed a graphic where they said the Wizards cut him in December, I think December 17th, and then the Nets picked him up January 4th. So I'm sure he's got something to prove with that. It was great to see Chris Chiozza, Cheese, getting love, Spencer Dinwiddie tweeting about him. The Nets started off kind of slow, though. So we start out going 1 for 10. We were down 11 too early, and I'm just like, damn, now it's starting to hello, darkness, my old friend. I'm like, maybe we don't belong here. I'm having those thoughts where I'm like, if we can't handle the worst team in the East that is invited to the bubble, maybe we don't belong here. But that started to change. Joe Harris started cooking, and shout out to Pooch. Poochie was tweeting about Joe Harris. He said this was 56 games with a made three, and that he was also looking to take Kerry Kittle's record. So he was 5 away from the record. Pooch tweeted that Joe Harris has moved into 7th place in Nets single season history and 3-pointers made. 2 more and he'll pass Kerry Kittle's, and he did that today. So shout out to Joey Headband, Broadway Joey. We were going through all the nicknames today. What are you thinking about our guy, Joey Harris? Awkward fist pump, awkward arm.
Joey suntan. He's got the long hair now. He's got rid of the beard. I like his new look though. That's what I'm going to say about Joe Harris. Outside of all the basketball, I like the new look. He fits the Orlando vibe. He looks like he would fit in, down in Florida. But I liked what I saw from him. Watching him play made me excited and nervous for next season. Excited if we re-sign him and nervous if we don't, because can you imagine the kind of open looks that Joe Harris is going to get when there are KD, Kyrie, Caris Levert, all these players on the court? No one's going to care about Joe Harris. And he's going to sit there. He's going to sit in the corner. He's going to sit at the elbow. And he's going to drain threes all day. And that is something that I don't think the Nets can pass up, because he's that perfect person to just stand there and then hit with the kick out and drain a three. And that's exactly what he did today, since the Wizards weren't exactly running him off the line the same way the Magic were. And it was great to see. And I'm excited for him. And I think he's excited for his future with the Nets too. It seems a lot like he's playing for the guys. He's putting in really good performances, playing hard, showing that hustle, which, isn't something that's guaranteed for someone who is, going into the end of their contract, playing on the worst team in the bubble and all these things. So it's good to see him go out there and show that. And he really showed up today and he had a great game.
Yeah, I'm watching the post game and he's talking right now. I got it muted because we're recorded. I wish I could hear it, but I'm thinking the same thing you just said, bro. Looking at Joey play like this and Jarret Allen play like this today. Those two guys, if this is an audition for next year, they have already shown me that they belong on this team next year, and I think they will be. You need to look at this as a Nets fan and say, okay, where are the pieces that we want to put on the court with KD and Kyrie? I saw you tweet out about Caris. Yes, obviously Caris. Check it off. He should be on this team next year. Joe Bucket should be on the team next year. Big J should be on the team next year. Those 3 guys had their best game together today that we've seen in the scrimmages, and obviously the first 2 games that count. Those guys need to be Nets. They're part of the old regime Nets. We always talk about, we did in the beginning of this podcast starting, the old regime Nets. These are guys that I feel like they're glue guys. Shout out to the Glue Guys Nets podcast. They're glue guys, and they're guys that are just part of our culture that need to stay here. And I think they have a good rapport together. They showed that today, and I can't wait to see them play with KD and Kyrie. Now, speaking about Jarret Allen had a double-double in the third. Jarret Allen, I got to give him props because I've been critical of him and I've been tough on him about being tough. He's finally looking like he's like a tough guy out there, throwing his shoulder into guys, playing a little bully ball, like getting aggressive, fighting for rebounds, putbacks, getting the ball and just yamming it over guys. And I'm like, maybe the pandemic, the shutdown, the time off, and now this bubble has like changed something in Jarret Allen. Maybe he's grown up a little bit. He balled out today, and I'd love to see it. He looks great, man. I got nothing but praise for Jarret Allen.
I mean, you see him put up 22 points and 15 rebounds. That's good numbers for anybody. That's good numbers for Anthony Davis. If you see him go out there and put out, 22 points, 50 rebounds, that's a good game for him. That's a good game for any big man in this league. And he showed that, that's what he is. He's a starting big man in this league. And it's similar to Joe Harris. Put him in the pick and roll with Kyrie. Put him in the pick and roll with KD. Put him in the pick and roll with Caris. They already got the connection. Just think about the opportunities that these players are going to get, from playing with these amazing players. And you talked about having culture guys, and I know we've talked about this before, but every dynasty, every one of these championship winning teams, they always have those guys, those culture guys who have been there through the bad times, and now they're there with the good. And Caris, Joe, and Jarret Allen deserve to be there. They deserve to be the bad guys who are there for the good times in the future. Just, for continuity's sake. I mean, if you look back, obviously the Warriors, they drafted Curry, so they had that. Pascal Siakam, even like Dwayne Wade, all of these players had spent their time with the franchise, been drafted by the franchise, and brought their time up. And I think Caris, Joe, and Jarret deserve to be those guys for the Nets. And I think the way they're playing is really putting to bed all this talk about bringing in, new players, new third stars, and, what we might need to bring in to make this team a championship contender for the future.
Yeah, and I'm thinking we are a championship contender as soon as KD and Kyrie step on the court. So in saying that, right, we do need these guys like Jarret Allen, Joe Harris, Caris Levert with that team from the old regime to the new regime. It just seems right. There's a lot of talk about trading guys or not re-signing guys. I think that goes out of the window. I think looking at the East, I'm excited to see tonight Harden versus Giannis, I'm excited to see Portland versus the Celtics today because, I want to see how these guys match up. And I really don't think so. Like the Celtics played the Bucks the other day. Bucks handled them. But I really don't see the East as like the East. There's a few teams that are all right in the East. Like the team like the Pacers can come out and TJ Warren can go all the way off for 53 points and knock down the Sixers. I didn't see that coming. I look at the East as ours, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but if you're a Nets fan, you should be getting ahead of yourself in this time, in this summer. If this was any other year, any other regular year, right now it'd be August, and we'd be talking about, in a couple months, KD is back. In a couple months, Kyrie, KD, they're going to step on the court, and the Nets are going to come through. So it's fine to dream. It's fine to talk about it now. One thing I'm going to say about Jarret Allen before we talk about anything else, he's also playing disciplined defense. I saw you put out a tweet about him not fouling out or him not, fouling on certain plays. It's because he knows there's nobody else. He is the starting five. He is the center. He needs to play a bunch of minutes, and we don't have DeAndre Jordan to come in. We don't have anybody behind him. So he's been very disciplined on defense, and I love to see that he's not fouling so much or getting into foul trouble early. It's kind of forced him to learn to play that way. And then also he was 10 for 10 from the charity stripe. All of a sudden he's hitting his free throws easily. Like, is it something about the ballroom basketball courts where they're practicing? Like, now all of a sudden Jarret Allen is shooting 100% from the free throw line. Like, something really has gotten into him, and they're showing the highlights of him now blocking shots. I love it, man. I'm very happy for him, but more so happy for us because I knew he had to kind of like come into his own this summer before next year, and I think he's proven a lot of people wrong, and he's proven the Brooklyn Nets right.
Well, flash it back. Go back to the beginning of this season. Kyrie's debut. The Nets are tied with the Timberwolves. Seconds on the clock. I think it was 3 seconds left on the clock. I'm in the building. I'm watching the game. Kyrie's going off. Jarret Allen's at the line. 2 free throws. Any one of those goes in, we win the game. We don't go to overtime. Kyrie doesn't play his street ball. He misses both of them. Think about the transformation he's gone through from then to now to hitting 10 of 10. Those are big free throw numbers. He scored 22 points. 10 of those were from the free throw line. Think about him playing at the beginning of the season. What? He hits, 5 of them? Think about how many fewer points that is. Think about how much it means to be able to put him out there at the end of the game and know he's not going to just foul because he's too small, because he's not strong enough to play good defense. I know we're kind of just going off on Jarret Allen right now, but he showed that he deserves to be, at the very least, a starting big man in the future. And thinking about the future, I am excited if he stays on the Nets in the future. I am excited for it. And I know it's the Wizards, and I know we might be overreacting because we played, the worst team in the bubble. But these are signs that, that they kind of go, depend, like whatever team you're playing, if Jarret Allen's hitting free throws, he's hitting free throws against any team, right? If he's playing good defense, he's playing good defense against any team. And I think this game against the Bucks is really going to prove that, because even if we get smoked, and we're probably going to get smoked because it's the Bucks and we don't have any of our players, there are going to be things to watch, like can Jarret Allen play strong and hit his free throws? Jarret Allen's going to be switching onto Giannis. Is he going to be able to play through 3 quarters and not foul out? So these are the big moments that you can watch for as a Nets fan in this bubble and think to the future and think, okay, these are things that are going to carry over to when number 7 Kevin Durant is on the court.
Yeah, man. I know we're looking ahead. I know we played the Wizards, but this is what you talk about. We're Nets fans. This is what Nets fans are talking about. There's no Nets fans right now watching this game thinking about what our chances are to win this whole thing. There are no Nets fans even thinking about what are our chances to move up to the 6th seed. It's just not happening. So what we're looking for is what we can look forward to. And I love what I've seen. What else? Garrett Temple off the bench. Obviously, he's not starting, but he's coming off the bench. GT is giving us some good veteran energy. I don't mind what I've seen from him. But what I do mind is his defense. Honestly, we don't have any defense. We need to find some perimeter defensive guys. Like, if we are bringing guys into this Nets team, we got to find some guys that can lock down. I think Tyler Johnson, maybe he got the start for his defense because he only had 2 points. But defensively, it's just rough to watch. Now, they have guys on the Wizards that should not be going off like this. Thomas Bryant, that ugly-ass motherfucker, he dropped 30 points and was hitting hella threes. Like, I'm watching this game. He's 4 for 6 from 3. He's got 30 points on us. I'm like, somebody check him. Somebody stop him. He doesn't even look like he should be balling like this. Who else on that team was getting off? Troy Brown Jr. I'm like, Troy Brown Jr. dropped 22 points on us. And then they had 3 guys off the bench with double-digit points. We just didn't have any defense at some points in the game, and that kills us because even when we're getting back-to-back threes or back-to-back possessions where we're getting easy layups, we're giving it right back. I think the Nets need to think about who they can bring in for defensive purposes way more than we're thinking about a third piece or someone to be in the big 3.
And I know we don't want to talk too much about this Magic game, but you do have to look back. We didn't lose that Magic game because we couldn't score points. We could score points. In that first quarter, we scored so many points, and that's why we finished it, ahead of them, because we could keep up with them. But that was because we were going off, not because the Magic were going off. That was because the Magic didn't face any resistance scoring points. I mean, they shot 60% across the game, and that's insane. Like, you can't allow a team, especially the Magic, because I know the Magic are a good team. They're a complete team. They have the chemistry. They played together the whole season. But it's still the Magic. They're not the Celtics. They're not the Raptors. They're the Magic. So you have to think about what you can do to be able to have that cohesive defense. Because, I mean, again, we're talking about the future. We're still going to need to play defense. We're spending all this time talking about offense and how great Jarret Allen looks on offense. We need to be able to play defense. Thomas Bryant was stepping out and ruining us as a stretch 5. We had no perimeter defense. There was no one shifting to help Jarret Allen, play on the outside, because Jarret still had to play on the inside because they still had bigger men than we have on this team. So there's no help there, and that's something that you need to have. Giannis can step out. He can score inside. He can score whenever he wants. They have shooters on this Bucks team. They have shooters on the rest of the teams in the East. Every one of these teams in the East has at least one player that can just stand there and drill shots. And for a lot of these teams, they're bigger guys. And we can't force Jarret Allen to have to step out like that. We can't force backup center TLC or backup center Rhodey to, pin themselves on the outside to play defense. So that is the one thing that has been killing us. And I think that's the one thing that, scheme-wise, something needs to change within Jacques Vaughn, because there has to be some way you can scheme around, allowing all of these step-out shots, allowing all of these step-out threes, and just letting teams shoot 60% on us.
Yeah, I saw our guy Billy Reinhart talking about the scheme and talking about they need to change the scheme. That, like, Jacques Vaughn, I think we still got to give him some time, and he's still trying to figure it out with who he's got. He's working with literally nothing. But we got to figure out how to play defense and how to stop some of these guys. If anything, if we're not going to win games, let's not get completely smoked. Let's not get completely blown out. The Wizards were giving it to us. Shabazz Napier had 4 turnovers. Bonga turned it over twice. Hachimura turned it over twice. They were giving us the ball. Robinson turned it over twice. They were literally giving us the ball back. Now, don't get me wrong. We turned it over our fair share too. Like, Chioza had 4 turnovers. Rhodey had 2. But, like, we win that game because Caris Levert has 34 points. And then Joe Harris kicks in another 27 points. We can't give all the love to Jarret Allen without talking about Joe Harris literally going 6 for 7 from three-point land. He knew that he was going to hit and have 2 records, the 56 straight games and then the taking Kerry Kittle's spot in the Nets lore. But like what I just keep thinking about the Nets is like, okay, this isn't our real team. This isn't our real team, but we have to take what we can from the parts of this like JV squad that will be our real team. And guys got to play better defense. We can't rely on Caris to drop 34 and Joe Harris to drop 37 because that's not going to happen against a better competition. That's pretty much only going to happen against the Wizards. Thank God we won that game. Thank God we were able to, stop them. They went on a few runs. They had an 8-0 run going into like half, and then I got to call out TLC, bro. What the fuck was he doing? There was like 4 seconds left. He steals the ball, chucks it up. Even I think Iron Eagle's like, he didn't have to do that. Shaqtin' a fool, chucks the ball away. And then we should have had a lead. We should have had at least like a 3-point lead going into half. And we end up going into half tied. TLC, I don't want to dog him too much because he's come a long way. Like, from the first scrimmage where he was getting a foul right away and was looking kind of ridiculous. Like he's looked better. And in the Orlando Magic game, he was our leading scorer.
I mean, he dropped 24 points. You can't understate that he led the team in points. And I know it was a lot of those points were scored in the fourth quarter, but a lot of those points were scored from deep threes, which TLC has a trigger. He will shoot the 3 and he can hit it. So I think that's exciting, from his point of view, for his future, to see if he can, continuously step out and hit those threes, because he almost gives me some Joe Harris vibes because he is a bigger guy and he's a guy that likes to step out and hit that 3. Obviously, he's nowhere near as good, but, he showed at the end of that Magic game that he can do that, but he has to eliminate the Shaqtin' a fool moments. He doesn't have that, that DeAndre Jordan like reputation to be able to throw out 2 Shaqtin' a fool moments a game, but also put up, 12 points and 10 rebounds. He's got to cut, the random things out that he does. And once he cleans that up, I see him as, a future NBA player. I don't know if he's a future player on this team, but that's something that we talked about. This is players trying out for their futures just in the league in general, not just to play with KD and Kyrie. So I think that's, one positive, one negative when it comes to TLC.
Yeah, he's young. What's he like, 24?
Yeah, he's young. He was drafted in the first round in 2016, I believe, early 20s.
He's 25. So, I mean, he's young. He's still got time to come into his own a little bit. But a lot of these guys on this team are young. We can't forget that, too. Like, a lot of these guys are 25 and younger, or, seasons-wise, they don't have that much time. Like, Chioza's 24. How old is Rhodey? Rhodey's another one that's young. Rhodey's 22. So, some of these guys are still going to come into their own. They're still going to grow up. Can't excuse them forever, but let's wrap this thing up, man. Who's your player of the game? Who's your Talkin Nets performance player of the game? We're only going to pick one for this.
I'm going to go with the easy answer so I can let you take the more fun ones. I'm just going to say Caris Levert. He showed that he has the chops. He continues to show it. He continues to go out and ball. He continues to answer every question that anyone puts in front of him. Every one of the doubters that says, oh, he's not that guy, he can't do it, he's not all that. He goes out and he shows them that he absolutely can on essentially just a game-by-game basis. I love his mid-range looks. I see, if I'm looking for changes between, Jacques Vaughn's offense and Kenny's offenses, I don't know if it's just letting Caris do more of what he wants to do or if it's schemed in. But Caris has taken a lot more of these little, mid-range shimmy Jordan-type shots, and they're falling for him. They're looking real good, and that allows him to step out, and it allows him to be shifty and penetrate in. And we saw that one move where he hit the one crossover and just drove in so easily. He's a good player. He's got the size to play on the inside and the stroke to play on the outside, and that makes his mid-range game lethal. And he showed again, and he's going to keep showing that he is the best player in the bubble, on our team. And he is absolutely a player that should be on this team in the future.
Cornrow Caris. I would probably have picked Caris, but this is what I'll say about Caris. It was like 92-92. Thomas Bryant and Ish Smith hit back-to-back threes, and I'm like, damn, our defense is ass. Like, these guys just went on a 7-0 run. It's late in the game. Like, it's winning time. Reggie Miller had the 30 for 30 winning time, and whenever I watch basketball and it gets down to those last like 5 minutes, I always look for the closers. The Nets for the longest time have lacked a closer. We saw Spencer Dinwiddie be that guy. Obviously, Kyrie this year was that guy. Right now, Caris is that guy. Caris was able to step into that closer role in winning time. The game was tied at 100 with about 5 minutes left to play. The Nets decided that they weren't going to lose to the Wizards, and he's the guy to help close it out. We go up 108-102 with 2 minutes and 23 seconds left. Caris shoots a three, and he gets fouled, goes to the line, hits a couple free throws, and that's when I could finally breathe, like, okay, we're not going to lose to the Wizards. We're not going to get embarrassed here. So we've given Caris a lot of love. We gave Jarret Allen, Big J, a lot of love. I guess my Talkin Nets performance player of the game is going to be Joe Harris, just because he, I think, knew that he was close to some things in the record books, and he came out and he went and knocked them down. So 56 games with a made three. I don't know where that is in the NBA record books, but I know it's somewhere.
He's 5 short of D'Angelo Russell's record, which is the Nets single season record for consecutive games. In that season 2 years ago, he hit 61. So that's the record that Joe's chasing right now.
Right, and then he just passed Kerry Kittles on the I think the all-time list for made threes as a net. So Joe Harris, we needed those 27 points, bro. To beat the Wizards, we couldn't just rely on Caris and Jarret Allen. We needed you to come through, and you did. And you did it in record fashion, and you did it in your style, shooting the three ball. And he had some good layups in there too, and just some tough plays. Broadway Joey, Headband Harris, Joey Suntan, all the nicknames. Sarah Kustok was shouting out nicknames. We're big nickname guys too. All right, what else? Other thoughts? So a lot of people are talking about these virtual seats. Shout out to our guy Doug. Doug Barrick was in the virtual seat. I think they had Mr. Whammy. We saw Doodle Bob, Kerry Kittles. I thought Kerry Kittles looked like a Doodle Bob version of himself. Who else is in there? Different like dogs and stuff. I think you can submit to brooklynnets.com/fanwall to try and get in. We're gonna submit and try and get in. So look out for us in, I don't know, the next couple of weeks. Also look out for the next podcast, which is gonna be on Wednesday, recorded Wednesday night after we play the Celtics. Looking ahead, we've got the Bucks coming up Tuesday at 1, I believe. We have the Bucks Tuesday 8-4 at 1:30, and then we have the Celtics Wednesday 8-5 at 9 p.m. So that's going to be a late one for us. We'll record right after that, and then new Talkin Nets will be out Thursday morning, going over the last 2 games, and then we'll just look ahead to the games against the Magic, the Wizards, or whoever else we have coming up. Not Magic and Wizards. We just played the Magic and Wizards. I got to check the schedule.
That Wednesday game is going to be hype though against the Celtics, because we're playing them at 9:00 and we're recording after. So that's going to be some peak Keith and Hudson. It's going to be that's damn near midnight.
I mean, I don't think we're going to win, but hopefully we compete and we see something, because it's like nobody wants to get on a podcast after we watch our team get smoked for 2 hours. So hopefully we compete and it's a full game of competition. Oh, and shout out to Grady too. They had Grady in the virtual fan seats. I just saw him on the screen during the post game. But yeah, also leave us a voicemail. Again, I see people calling the voicemail and not leaving voicemails. The voicemail line is wide open, especially now that we have games. We want to hear from you guys. This is the voice of the fan, Talkin Nets, fans talking about the Nets. It's 201-870-0461. I'll say it again, 201-870-0461. Make sure you follow us on our social media handles at Talkin Nets on Instagram and Twitter. Follow John Boy Media at John Boy Media on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me at Keith McPherson as well. Follow Hudson Flynn. Where can they follow you, Hudson?
You can find me at Hudson Flynn _ on Instagram and Twitter. And before Keith gets to say it, leave a review. Oh my God. Leave a review. Keith is out here trying to bribe you. And I know people listen. I know people make it to the end of the podcast. Keith is bribing people. If you go out there, you leave a 5-star review, you're getting a prize. We don't care at this point. We want your feedback. We want your reviews. We were on all of that. So just leave it for us. Throw us a bone. We'll throw you a bone.
We'll hook it up for sure. We'll hook it up. It's tough. I do Talkin Sports. I do Pinstripe Strong, and we do the same thing. We ask people to leave voicemails and leave reviews. It's going to happen. It's going to come through. Somebody is listening right now. And they're like, man, I want a free Talkin Nets shirt. I want some John Boy Media merch or a shout out on the pod or a tweet or whatever it might be. If you're listening and you're with the Talkin Nets fam, help us out. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And we'll see you next Thursday. The Nets get their first win in the bubble. We're hoping there's more, but we don't know how many more there might be. That's all we've got. Talk to you soon. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.